Docking request accepted.
Good morning, New Eden. Today is October 8th, 2024, and this is the Federation Frontline Report. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have one of the coolest guests that we've had on before has returned to talk about the CSM. We have Kshal Aideron. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me on again.
Yes, no, great to have you back on here, and lots to talk about, lots of things going on in Eve. I was just on your show, streamed live. That was super awesome, and I do have to say, your questions are better than mine. I should probably try and steal. Nah, we got a little bit of a different theme here, but it's man, you had really great questions. It's like, when you go on hot, or you see people go on hot wing or hot ones, and they're just like, oh, you had great questions, your questions were really, really well done.
Well, thank you.
And so one of the things, we always do here, and you've already done before, so I don't think we need to go in deeply. Check out the other podcast episode that we had Kshal on, and you can get the full lowdown of the breakdown of how did you get into EVE Online and the likes. But just a real quick summary, how did you get into EVE Online, and what made you really passionate about this game?
Yeah, this is actually my third time trying to get into EVE Online. The first time was 2015. Never got undocked, rage quit, uninstalled. Second time, I think it was 2018, right around when they put the alpha accounts out. Tried it again because, it's free this time. Why not? I did get undocked. I never got into a ship, and something came by, killed my pod. I said screw it, and went back to Elder Scrolls Online. And then in 2019, I started working with a developer that also played EVE, and I thought I was going to be really smart by pairing him up with my husband, who stayed in EVE since 2015. They joined the same corp, went out to nullsec, and I had to hear about it at the office, I had to hear about it at home, so it was a case if you can't beat him, join him. But the key to the whole thing was the first time there was no tutorial. The second time it was really bad. The third time, and this is the predecessor to the current NPE, it actually kind of drew me in. So Aura was there, telling me to click this icon, click that icon, do this, do that. So yeah, I ended up sticking around. Then I fell right into the NPSI community. I started scouting at something like 2 months, started FCing at 8 months. I started running an incursion community at a little over a year, and today I am the CEO of a 3,100 Discord community of vets, returning vets, new players, people who want to do pretty much every type of fleet that you can think of, except for faction warfare. That's the one thing that we don't do.
Well, we complement each other very well because that is one of the things that I think we both believe is faction warfare is a newbie kind of area, but they need to go through you first to you Eve University. There's plenty of other organizations out there as well that
Yep.
are out there really helping out, and if without you guys doing your good work, it would be a lot harder on my side to pick up a newbie for sure. Um, and and we always direct. A lot of the times I do have to sometimes be like, no, you need to go check out some of the new player communities
Yep.
first. I can get you at about 3 months, but at a day, I'm not going to be helpful to you. Although I've been looking into some ideas of doing more involvement with the directly into the new player experience and stuff like that, but that's another tale. So tell us though, you're currently on the CSM, correct?
Correct. I'm on 18. Yep.
And this is your first time on the CSM. Can you tell us about
Yep.
that experience?
So last year for CSM 18, CCP changed the rules a little bit. The players still got to vote 10 people onto the council, but CCP decided they were going to pick 2 people from number 11 to 20. So to be a CCP pick, you still have to do the work. You still have to get the votes. The community got me in there, and now that I have my foot in the door, I've been able to actually accomplish quite a few things. Okay, to get it out of the way, Equinox wasn't great. The whole Skyhook fiasco, not great. But if we start looking at the things that I was able to touch, around the first of the year, the incursion community got into a little bit of turmoil. We had one guy, well, actually 3 guys, who decided that they were going to harass the incursion community by popping Mom every single time she became targetable, which is something like between 6 and 12 hours after the spawn. So for those of you that don't know, incursions, there's a mothership, like say we fondly call her Mom, and you you go and you pop Mom when you want to end the incursion. And there was reasons that we would pop it early, but for the most part we wanted to farm it. So yeah, they decided that we weren't allowed to farm it because we're just Care Bears that get free ISK, and it got to the point where it wasn't even worth moving our ships, because that's one horrible mechanic in Eve where you have to move your ship sometimes 40 jumps to the other side. It wasn't even worth
Transportation
logging
in
on.
Eve is crazy. There's no other game that has transportation like Eve has transportation issues. And it's part of the whole thing.
Cruel.
But man, I remember when I was newbie, I would jump around for about 3 hours trying to collect my items because I didn't know that there was a Jidda or a Dodixie. I was just in Orse Alert, which gave you 30 to 50% of the items, but you'd had to go 25 jumps around in circles and then realize you have to do it all over again. Yeah.
So with all that work, yeah, it was just kind of disheartening, and the community decided that this wasn't a CCP problem at that time, that we were just not going to engage with them and just lay low. This went on for months. I mean, these people were absolutely engaged, and the one thing you have to remember, that popping the mothership is an activity for between 40 and 80 players. 3 guys were doing it. 3.
Interesting.
So now you know where the multi-boxing question came from.
Right, yep, okay. So because they had multiple characters that were doing this, but there was 3 humans that were behind it.
Yep. So between 15 and 20 accounts each. So at a certain point, the community was starting to break down. We actually lost a headquarter community that did the headquarter sites, and it was just like, we're not going to do this again. In the 3.5 years that I have been doing incursions, we have lost something like 3 or 4 communities. So it's just like, okay, we're not doing this again. So there were some people, or some of my team, that were talking about home fronts, and there was a big run on home fronts because incursion people didn't have anything else to do. So there was no sites. So they were talking about it, mentioned something about this is because of the community that was dying, and then talking about it again. So I'm like, this is a great screenshot. I take the screenshot, put it in where we communicate with the CCP devs, and just put a little context in there. Oh, by the way, if you want to know what this random comment is, here's the situation. Wouldn't you know, that interested CCP. And then we got the change that you can't pop Mom until she's been up for 3 days, 72 hours. So that is like one of the things that CSM actually can do. If you really liked the update with the, the block on words, links and stuff in chat in Jita, and actually have a conversation. Mike Azariah and I are actually responsible for that. That was like a quality of life thing that we put in. Same thing with getting rid of referral spam in the career mission systems. And
awesome.
There was just
because that was ridiculous.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of little things. I wasn't the most helpful CSM for the null stuff. I am, a PvPer. I take out my gang of new players and we go kill things out in nullsec. I like to go visit, but I don't live there. So I would listen, and sometimes I would ask questions, if I were to go out and get Sov, how would I do this? And is this even possible with these mechanics that you are, telling us about here? So I was always able to contribute something from that perspective. But it was pretty upsetting, and when I got picked in there and they revealed that it was all about nullsec rejuvication, because I'm sitting there like, why did you want me? Why didn't you get someone that actually uses? But then as time went, it was like CCP actually needs a more varied CSM.
Right, yeah, and
so
it's not about necessarily like we were talking during my interview about like the impact of a CSM member, that the big expansion is not their area of expertise. It's all about those little things. Then it's not about getting the big huge feature update that you're looking for, but it is all, you should have a list of little things that you need to get done, and those are, I think, more important to get done than it is to get your big huge expansion idea that you want to get done.
Yep, exactly. And that's actually where those questions were formulated from, is from my experience with the CSM and what a lot of people's perception seems to be of the CSM. So,
and yeah, what so just for those that maybe, probably if you gotten to this point, hopefully you have a little idea about what CSM is. But just if you could explain from more of a insider point of view, what is the CSM? What are they capable of? I mean, are they devs? Do you guys get to go in there and change? Do you get to look at code? Do you get to do you
no.
know what the spaghetti code is?
Absolutely not. We do know that POS code is, spaghetti code. That is one thing that has been revealed, but they haven't actually, shown us what the code is. We're advisors. Plain and simple, we are the people that go and give feedback. So at the beginning of your term, they're going to go and reveal to you what they're working on during your term. Maybe sometimes they'll actually show you a longer road plan. So I do know some of the stuff that's going to be coming if I don't get on to 19 that could be there. But during 19, it could be, tossed out of the window, and then it's surprise, next expansion. Then it's kind of, we talk to different teams working on different things every week. So we have a weekly meeting, sometimes multiple. And sometimes a team involved on the expansion wants to know, hey, what do you think about this thing? And we can go and we can look at it and say, oh, we really like that. Or did you think about, how this is going to affect someone that's coming into the game in their first 10 days? So a bunch of questions. And that's pretty much where it comes down to. But we do have quality of life meetings. So if we have things that, players tell us about, like I would really like to have more bookmarks, we do have a place that we can list all of these ideas, and we get the opportunity to talk to the different teams that would be responsible for those different things. I've had conversations about what if we were to revamp missions, combat missions, for example. And they would just come and say, we have this idea. What do you think about it? And we could say, oh, I really like that. Or have you thought about this? Or, we're not developers, but we can say, I really love to see this thing. And this is how I would do it if, I had the opportunity. But we can't go in there and say, well, you have to do it like this. Going in with demands and beating your chest and yelling the loudest, that usually gets you ignored pretty quickly.
Absolutely. And so would you say that a lot of the things is that CCP giving you what their vision is, and then you critiquing that vision is that's a large part of it, you'd say?
That's a very big part of it, and we get to try to bring, put our stamp on it, so we can kind of influence a little bit. I guess in a way we're also kind of influencers within the CCP organization. So we can say that we really don't like this, what you're doing, and here's why. One of the things that I learned is CCP loves numbers, CCP loves data. So whenever someone comes to me and says, well, you need to go tell CCP this, and I'll be, okay, that's fine. I need you to write me out exactly what I'm asking them for. And sometimes, like with faction warfare, I've had a bunch of faction warfare groups come to me, and they want me to put forth the problem with AWOXing. So they have actually written me out exactly what's happening, and that is why I'm getting involved in faction warfare now, because I want to experience it for myself. So when I go and talk to CCP about it, I can say, you know, hey, I have this personal experience. This is exactly what's happening. And CCP absolutely loves that. And that will probably get CCP to listen more than just going, you need to go change the skyhooks now, you ruined my gameplay.
Right, yeah. No, yeah, and then if you can get some graphs and some, some spreadsheets in space, because as much as we're like, oh, it's, some people, I think, when they hear spreadsheets in space and they see the game, they're like, oh, that's why it's called spreadsheets in space. And it's like, no. That's just the skin of the surface of how deep the spreadsheets in space go. It's like, it's all about wringing out data, pulling in data and just reevaluating having graphs and different ways of evaluating and looking at things. I mean, we get an economic report every quarter, like, who the fuck, what game does that,
I know, right?
It's some cool stuff that we have here. So speaking of, like, all the stuff that you have to do in the CSM, can you kind of explain, like, how is it to, how do you balance life, work, and then being part of EVE with a great, huge newbie community, and then be part of CSM? I mean, would you say that because they say about 20 hours, is that like 20 hours
Roughly.
a week of like hardcore meetings, 20 hours of meetings, or is it like texts, chats, like you need to check out some things here and there, you can kind of take it piece by piece? And would you say that has being part of CSM had any effect on your social life? And
so, the way that I dealt with it is, just stop working. No, kidding. I
full-time EVE Online.
Exactly, since like June. No, I'm a freelancer, so I do a lot of consulting and freelance work, and that gives me really ultra flexibility. But some of the CSM that I'm serving with right now definitely have, that 9-to-5 job, and I can tell that they struggle with it a little bit more. But everybody seems to make time for the meetings, and they make time to talk to the developers. So when it breaks down, the big time sink, but also kind of a reward, is when they fly us out to Iceland. So it's all expense paid, so that's really cool. I didn't have to buy anything when I was there, if I didn't want to. And but people think that that's really great, but it's like being at a conference.
Right, yeah,
so
it's
you
very
are
hardcore.
You are living and eating and drinking EVE from like 7 in the morning until 2300 at night, and that is 5 days. So we get in the office around 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we have meetings. And this year, I guess they actually gave us something like 20 minutes in between. I guess for CSM 17, they actually made them back to back.
Oh, wow.
So people were having to like jump out to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So I can say that it's a lot of fun, but it is grueling. I actually needed a vacation after to recover. So that's the big one. Then we have a weekly meeting, sometimes 2 or 3 meetings, depending on where we are in the season. So that's where we're meeting with different teams who are showing stuff, usually for the expansion, or maybe it's future ideas that they want to start fleshing out, maybe for expansions 2, 3 down the line. And then I probably spend, 2-3 hours a week talking to individual devs, and that's either within Slack or, in calls. And then the rest of the time for my CSM duties is really what I do, on Discord or in-game mail, in-game chats, and people just contacting me. And of course, the 50 million Discord servers I belong to, you become a very popular person after you get elected and everybody wants you on their server.
Absolutely.
making your rounds and stuff like that. So I probably personally spend closer to 30 hours a week doing CSM stuff versus, someone who puts minimum amount into it. But I think 20 is absolutely the minimum.
And would you say that a lot of this time is it Euro dedicated, where if somebody's CSM in the U.S. or Japan or China, is there a problem that comes about with time zone interaction? Are people that are not EU going to find themselves having a smaller voice?
Smaller voice, no, but they're going to have to alarm clock it. One of the things that we do with the meeting is each term the CSM are asked, what day is the best for all 12 people sitting there, what time is the best. But the time does have to be kind of within CCP's workday. So, those of you in the US are never going to get, a late US time zone time, and people in Australia are never going to get, like prime time for them. And I think this year it's 1600 Eve that we have our meetings. So next, CSM 19, it could be 1300 Eve, it could be 14. So it's kind of a.
How long are
group
these
decision.
meetings? Are they like an
Hour.
hour? Okay, so so if you do it, like, for example, for me, it's really easy for me to be like, hey, I'm gonna take an hour break. I'm gonna be going on and doing something else, and this is my lunch.
Yeah.
Maybe eat a burger while I'm talking with you
Yep.
guys and stuff like that. So it's great to hear that there's, it's not like you don't have to dedicate like 5 hours, to of your time in the morning, to one day. It's like, oh, it's only one day a month that, we gather, but it's 5 hours. Like, I can't do that if it's on a weekday. Like,
and also, CCP doesn't expect us to be at every meeting. So I try to make as many meetings as possible, even if it's something that doesn't directly interest me, like, getting into the nitty-gritty numbers of power and people and everything in nullsec. But I always try to log in or go back and watch, because they'll give you the link to go back and watch the meeting, just so I can learn more. And when people ask me questions, I don't sit there and, I'm not completely stupid.
So one thing I'm interested in, from your point of view as a CSM representative as well, and I want to make sure that we have some time here to talk about your platform. And I mean, a lot of us do know your platform, but I want to make sure if there's any changes or anything to this year. But one thing I am really interested in is how much do you think the NDA is prohibiting proper communication? Do you think that, not necessarily, I mean, not that there should be no NDA, but do you think that it's overzealous for some of the things that are redacted? Do you think that there is interactions happening behind closed doors? This is something that Phantomite kind of brought up, that he felt while he was on there, that behind closed doors, you get a very different CSM representative, and that a lot of the ones that might be coming out now, not specifying or saying that there specifically is, but that there's possibility that there's some of these people coming out and saying Skyhook changes, oh, this is crazy, I would never advocate for this, and that behind closed doors they were like, yes, we need to have this lockdown to be, the fortress that it is now, and I'm just going to feign ignorance when the population freaks out on me.
So I can't speak for previous CSM at all, because I wasn't there. I don't know what went on. But for CSM 18, I don't think that really is the case. Pretty much, we are allowed to say the things that we have brought to CCP. So, like, after this last, maybe it was the patch before this one, where they put in the bays and narrowed the vulnerability window.
Narrowed the vulnerability window.
Okay, narrowed.
From 0 to 99.9%.
What can I say?
They have worse uptimes than some of my gold apps that I need to ensure being up for my major corporation in real life.
I mean,
okay, sorry. I'm just bitter. I'm a bitter. I guess I say I'm not a bitter vet yet, but man, some things in Eve, a little bitter.
See, I have told people on my server that they're not allowed to say the S word. I am so done with it. But no, in all seriousness, we can say that, I told CCP that this was not going to be a great idea, and that is perfectly kosher with the NDA. But we can't really go and say, what CCP originally brought to us or what their ideas are or anything like that.
Can you
When
say
something comes
anything
out,
about what the other CSM are saying? So are you able to be like, no, let's say another theoretically another CSM representative goes on and just spews
yep,
a bunch of crap on Reddit about what they're doing,
yep,
and you know that behind the scenes he's not saying any of this stuff. It's the
yep,
complete opposite of what he's saying. Are you able to? Are you under NDA and have to say I
no,
can't say anything?
no. What is said amongst the CSM, as long as it's not about stuff that's under NDA, I can go and say, Mike Azariah was completely, for the. Actually, that's the person you need to go talk to. He was completely for this change, and he's the problem. So,
Okay,
I could,
that's
I
good.
I
That's
could
good to
say this,
hear.
but it's more, we're working as a team, and most of the time when you're working with a team, it's not going to serve anything except for making someone's life absolutely utterly miserable
Right,
by
and
saying
you're
this
saying
person.
too that it's not a problem. Corruption at that kind of corruption is not a problem in the CSM from what you're
No,
seeing. So that they're
no,
if they're saying that they're pushing for something, they're likely pushing for it from what you've
yeah,
seen. Awesome, that's great to
yep.
hear because that is something that I found to be a little bit like, that's interesting because yeah, you got to be careful about that. Like,
Again, I can't say anything about CSM 17 or for back. Um, I've heard some things, but I
I'm
don't
sure
know if
it's
it's just
it's happened. I'm
bitter
sure, but
bitterness.
it's nice that you guys
100%.
can totally call
Yeah.
each other out though if that's needed.
You know, it's like, Kaz is really campaigning for splitting up the blocks right now.
Mhm.
And I know that he's gone on to some small gang servers, and they're all sitting there going, "Yeah, right. You're just telling us this for your vote." And I don't have a horse in that race. So, but I can honestly say that yes, this is something that he is definitely advocating for, and it's true. So yeah, no, this CSM I can definitely say that what people are putting out to you guys is the truth.
Awesome. So, speaking of what people are advocating for, what is your foundational platform? What if you could sum it up into like a good thesis statement, and then we'll go from there. What is your thesis statement on what you want to do in CSN?
So it's basically the same thing that I've campaigned for the last 2 years, and what I'm about in Eve. I want to make sure that new players come into the game are taken care of and that they stay in the game, because without them, we wouldn't have a game. It'd be a bunch of old bitter vets, and after we shoot each other in the face, for the next year, we're gonna be, yeah, screw this and go on to the next best thing. I want to see inclusivity. Um, I know that we talked about toxicity within Eve, but that also extends to, as you had talked about, having someone on there body shaming and stuff like that. Eve Rookies has all abilities. We have people that are paralyzed and have to use assistive devices, and they have to use voice activation in order to do things. We have people who have anxiety, who are autistic, who um, aren't English as a first language. You name it, we probably have it at this point. And it drives me absolutely mad when a community decides that they just don't want to put the time into it because it's an inconvenience to them. Eve is for everybody. So
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that we continue going on, and CCP recognizes this as well. So if they come across that guy using an assistive device, he only has 1 or 2 accounts, and it's coming up as botting, look into it a little bit more. Don't actually ban him.
Yeah, you have to be careful with your bans, and with the assisted community for sure. I mean, there's a big
Yep.
difference between we see this guy with 15 accounts, and it's like, well, but it's all VPN, so it's not but we know that they fly together and they're shooting it. It's like, okay, so now we know there's a lot of shit here. This guy doesn't use a VPN. He's got 2 accounts. He can, barely get these 2 accounts to go above the ability to mine in, in a massive botting way like that. No, this is not what we're seeing here. It's just, you got to dig in and be. I think that's one of the things they need to be really communicative on and be very quick to act on unbanning if they accidentally ban. And those tickets cannot sit around unanswered for a long time. No. And if the investigation is done, and yeah, we can't reveal secrets, that's fine, but at least tell them, nope, the investigation is done and we have conducted, and if you do another ticket, maybe there should be some level of appeals court that kind of happens for that. But the first initial investigation should be done in like a day. Like,
we had one of the things that we did at Summit is we're meeting with all the different teams. They're presenting, what they do to us, and we got to meet the security team. I don't know if you went on the or saw the panel talk from the security team in last FanFest, where they kind of presented what they actually do, their tools.
Oh, I should have joined that one. Is there gonna? Hopefully, there's another one this upcoming year, because I would love to sit in on those. I don't know why I would have missed that. That would have been one that I would have loved to have seen.
Well, it was on YouTube, so
I'll go check that out then.
Go look it up. So we got to talk to them, and of course, when it came around to my turn to talk, that's where I kind of started grilling them. How do you know if this is actually a bot or assistive device type thing? So we actually got into a really good conversation about that. I am satisfied that if someone temporarily gets banned because of it, it's going to be resolved very quickly. And a CSM superpower that isn't talked about very much is we have a direct contact with CCP. We're a direct line. So if you have something that needs to get escalated up, like, you're using some sort of assistive device and you're banned, take it to a CSM, take that ticket number and give it to them. And then they can go to community and say, hey, this is a situation, can you look into it?
So would you also say that, like, because it's interesting, I see it not a lot, but there seems to be waves of it that come, because there's definitely banned waves that happen. So every once in a while you'll see on Reddit, like, somebody's like, hey, I got banned unfairly. And a lot of them, I have to say, from my point of view, and, it's not necessarily fully founded, but they definitely didn't come back and say I got unbanned. But a lot of them are just bullshit. But there are some out there that definitely CCP Swift or other people have come back and been like, whoa, okay, we checked into it. You're right. This is fucked up. I'm sorry. You are unbanned now. There's multiple times. Would you say that if you're truthfully got banned and if you feel you didn't cheat and you don't understand what's going on, that actually hitting up social media is a good way of getting that to light?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely, from what I've seen, it pressured, CCP into looking, and, maybe a CSM saw it and took it to CCP if they hadn't seen it. So, and if you want to bring something like this to a CSM, be nice. Mm-hmm. Don't go getting into the CSM's face, demanding that they do something, because we will just put you on block, I guarantee. And plead your case well.
Right, have some thought and idea, I mean, because a lot of the times the ones that just come in are like, I have zero idea what's going on here at all. Is like, well, something, did you trade? What was the trade that? And if it's like, well, I did trade back in the day with this guy here, and he gave me all this Plex for no money whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, now let's look at that. But it was this, I got the easy scam. I scammed him type thing. There's weird stuff. But there are some times where it's like, oh, I just bought this off of, I saw a contract. It was, for half the price. And I grabbed it, and it's, look at my history, I didn't look through their history, but if they're the ones that are, like, just trying to get rid of loot cheaply because they botted it or whatever, or bought it or whatever, you have to be careful. But then, it's a lot of investigation to a certain degree. Sometimes it is a lot of investigation. And I'm just always one for communication. You know, if my team is working on something, I want either I'm going to ask them so that I get the notes in, and also preferably if they could give me solid notes when they have time to sit down and give me a solid understanding of exactly what technical things specific. I want the hard thing. Give
Yep.
me updates. Give me put notes in your ticket. I hate
Yep.
when a ticket doesn't go for any amount of time without something
Yep.
being said at least. Um, so yeah, that's it. I definitely see this as something that I love your platform. I love what you
Mm.
do out there, and I'm really happy that you were one of the things when they decided on picking their own picks for 11 to 20. I was like, oh, CCP, this is real dangerous. Like, you better pick well. Like, you need to. And the picks this year, was very, very happy with. And I think that this year you should definitely get in without needing to be picked,
Yep.
because you've proven yourself for sure. Um, but if you don't get into the top 10, you definitely need to be another pick from CCP.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know what they're going to do with that. They haven't talked about it. I haven't asked, so I don't know if they're going to pick the same people, a second time around if they run, or if they're going to pick new people. I
yeah, I mean,
honestly
there's
don't
a
know.
lot that kind of comes into that, but I mean, and I'm pretty confident you've proven yourself. Let's vote Kshal. Like, this is an easy one. Like, you're gonna be at the like very high on my ballot. I have to take the number one spot. I'm and Frog uh,
Frippy.
Frippy. I want to call him Froggy or Frogger because the guy or Flippy his is Frippy, but it's Flippy. It's the Star Fox frog guy that I shoot
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah.
time in the first mission. The first time I see him, I'm like, "Fuck you, Froggy!" No, I love his enthusiasm as a brand new
Yeah.
player. He's gonna be really high at the top, mostly because I don't think he's gonna get in. And the only way he will is by having players throw him at a very high on
Yep.
that list, because I don't think he's going to get the Imperium's backing from what I've seen, and I would almost truthfully think that it would be like let's have a 13th and get that lucky number 13
Yep.
council members, and with that 13th seat should be you can only have been playing the game for under a year. And if you haven't been, like for real, like we'll look into this, we'll talk to you, like no, sliding in here, but and obviously that's never going to happen. That's a crazy Josh idea. But I love the idea of a brand new bro coming in and being like, let me show you my paradigm because
Yep.
it's going to be drastically different than our
No,
paradigms.
no, he's not allowed to. I came in at 3.5 years into the game, so no one else can beat me.
Yes.
No,
I mean, he
I
would be
honestly,
hard to beat at like 6 months. I think he's been playing. Like that's
yeah, he's gonna get.
he's got courage, man.
No, we had a good talk after the interview, and the reality is he's doing the exact same thing that I did for CSM 17. I ran at 2 years into the game for CSM 17, and truthfully, it wasn't because I knew that I'd get in. I honestly was shocked that I got to number 20 out of 48, I think. Uh, it was to promote Eve rookies and get eyeballs onto my community, because if I lost, I won. So he's doing the exact same thing. He's just getting his name out, but different things happen, and CCP does have those picks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm also one of those people that I don't have any large block. The Galente are fractured. The Keldari hate me, but not really. Actually, I had a great town hall with the Keldari, and I love my brothers on the other side of the trenches. To be honest, like so, sometimes we send over coconuts and they're filled with bombs, but sometimes they're just coconuts because we just love you and it's fine. It's this game is so crazy with this CSM kind of thing, and there is. Speaking of which, do you feel that there is anything that can be done or anything that should be done to weaken some of the power of zero point 0.0 blocks? And is that in the
Oh,
hands of the community to do that, or is that in the hands of CCP to assist that? And maybe there's no problem at
that's
all.
I do think that there's a problem. A lot of people don't know one of the partners of eVerkies is LinkNet. And LinkNet actually went out and got Sov down in Provi last year. They've held it for almost a year now. But I was around the year before when they only held it for 3 months, and just seeing how Pandemic Horde came in and just beat the hell out of them, and the blood, sweat, and tears, and just the why are we even bothering when this big block is just going to come and steamroll us and say no. So I do think that the blocks need to be broken up. I 100% support Kaz on his mission, because I think this is the answer to make Null healthier. And CCP recognizes this, and that is what they tried to do with Equinox. Equinox was actually meant as a baseline.
Mhm.
So just the sole fact that it came out with a new style for the small gangers and stuff like that, that was kind of an accident, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So and it all had to kind of be rolled back and brought back in. It was kind of devastating to this whole thing, and people are pissed about it. I know people are pissed. If you're watching and you're pissed, I understand, but also understand that Null hasn't been worked on in the almost 5 years I've been playing. Okay, yeah, they got the ESS and stuff like
Little
that,
minor
but
things.
if you look at everything that gets put out into Null, it's so that they can be become a bear whipping boy. So everyone just goes and kind of comes from all the different space and beats on them. So, yeah, it definitely needs to be broken up. It needs to allow smaller groups to come in. If anyone there came and told me that they wanted to go out and get Sov today, I would say no. Hell no. Because we don't have the ISK. We don't have. It'll all come down to myself and probably about 10 people's shoulders to run the whole thing. The way it's all set up, because it's also a lot of busy work in order to maintain Sov and do things. I mean, look at just the skyhooks. Someone has to go out and, empty them, and it's like adding more hauling into the game because we all love that.
I don't know. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna push back a little bit on that. Where I'm gonna say that one, we need to get more haulers in space. Two, I like hauling. Three, This is a brand new. Okay, so the ice, we can, okay, that's a lot of work, and okay, I'm gonna admit that. But the magnetic gas, like that was just pure profit. That's all that thing is about, is generating pure profit. You know what the pirates cared about? You know what the single man that came into your thing for 15 minutes to grab his shit and get the fuck out for one skyhook? What he did, he hit the magnetic gas. And the magnetic gas is all profit, baby. And if you're gonna cry about profit, that I got a little bit of it, then welcome to Eve. First time, like.
But the reality in running a corporation, because when you look at it, eVerkies, we don't have a presence in the game, but we have stuff. We need to get ammo to our different staging areas and stuff like that. People go, oh yeah, I'll help out with that, and then at the last minute,
Push
because
comes
we need
to
it,
shove, yeah.
Gets it's gonna be the top leadership that is doing this, and that's what it kind of gave Null, is more of this. Instead of putting people out in space and being able to have fun, it's just like more chores.
Do you think that they have an unfair advantage when it comes to the CSM? And is there anything that outside of what the community needs to band together? Because obviously our votes really do matter in this game.
Yep.
People need to make sure that they understand that. I would definitely, see that we need to vote. We need to vote for who we believe in. Follow. Look at a ballot maybe, but check out the interviews and stuff like that. Like, get involved. Politics I just think politics in general is always very interesting, and that if the base civilian was involved in politics for real, that we would have a much better society. I think Eve is the same way. We've got a political system here that actually does something for a communication line to CCP. But do you think that CSM right now is dominated by the 0.0, or do you think that it's playing out the way that it needs to? Just blocks have their power because they have thousands of people under them.
Well, again, I can't speak to previous CSM, But CSM 18 is very balanced. Realize we only have 6 people sitting on there from null. And that's partly because, Erst went and created the IBIS ballot, and Eve Rookies came in, and also for 18, I was on a couple of the ballots for nullsec as well. So I think they're starting to realize that they need to have a more balanced CSM, because yes, null is a big thing, but there's other parts of the game. And you know as well as I do that null, goons and horde and initiative, frat, they all operate in low sec, they all operate in high sec, they all operate in wormhole space and POCFin. So, not getting people in there that are experts, material experts in this, hurts the game overall. So I think I hope that CSM 18 is kind of a sign of things to come, down the road. But regardless, CS or CCP being able to have those 2 picks, there's going to be someone who hopefully gets, in 11 and 20 that can add that balance as well if needed.
Yeah, no, and I think that I do find it interesting that, saying that 50% of the council is dominated by one area of space is not bad. But they also are one of they're the biggest numbers probably. So 50% between, because then if you split it up, there's really 2 coalitions, right? I don't know if it's split down the middle of how coalition allegiance goes, but there's 2 major coalitions in 0.0, and they've got together 6 CSM representatives, which is a large voice for 2 organizations. Luckily, they're at odds with each other to a certain degree, and I think that they do representatives that I have seen them put forth do believe they want to have a better game. I may disagree with some of their ways that they think the game will be better, but everybody's pushing for a better tomorrow type kind of thing. And so I that's reassuring though, that just you're feeling that it's moving much more, because I believe in the beginning it was pretty obvious that the 0.0 dominated CSM, and now and the 2 picks are huge, and they picked really well, like I said before. So awesome. So I want to make sure that as we're getting up on time here, that we definitely leave aside some time here to talk about anybody that you want to shout out, any people that you've worked with, anybody that's on your supporting team, your mom and dad that are obviously watching this right now.
Yeah, my mom she calls everyone my little space friends.
Aww.
When we went and did a road trip through Italy in the spring, and of course, I was attending CSM meetings while on the road, and she would just walk into our hotel room. She's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it's a CSM meeting." She's like, "Oh, you're talking to your space friends."
Sounds like you have contact with aliens.
Kinda, yeah.
a little bit. We are from another part of the universe.
But yeah, no. If I have to give anyone a shout out, it's gonna be the 88 people that helped me run Eve Rookies. Back in the beginning of September, we hit 3,000 people on our Discord, and we're now at 3,100. I have no idea where they're all coming from. We took over a community for the headquarter incursions back in May, and we got about 300 people off of that, but people are still finding us and coming out. We're running somewhere, I think, August we ran 86 fleets, and last month it was down to more reasonable 76. But these guys are just going out and they're kicking butt. Without them, when I was running it myself, I could do maybe 2-3 fleets a week. So now we're running almost 3 a day.
Wow.
Which is tremendous.
Yeah, that's pretty epic.
Yeah. And in different time zones. And of course, there is my NPSI community. These guys have been around, and the whole time I've been playing. And Kshal has been part of Fun Inc., which is the Ancients, since 6 months in the game, I think. She has never been in any other corps. So, well, there was a few 0% corps in the beginning just to avoid taxes. But yeah, she's never left, and it's family. So we go out and we Kiati, the CEO, runs his Raptor fleet on Thursdays and Saturdays. Right now, I think it's 18:30, and once daylight savings comes, it'll be 19:30. And of course, Bombers Bar. I run with them a lot. So, okay, my PvP may not be small gang style, but, I go big or go home.
Right, absolutely.
And then, as far as the CSM goes, a huge shout out to the other CSM that I've ran with. It has been an absolute pleasure. I have learned so much. All the stuff that I, didn't know that I needed to know, they have been able to fill in and show me, why my thought process is wrong, or, what they're trying to accomplish on the things I didn't know. They have been an absolute joy. I am very sad that the people that aren't running again won't be there if I make it. Especially Dark Shines. He has been so much fun to work with, and Stitch as well. And then, as far as the rest of the CSM, there are definitely a few that I would absolutely love to see get on. Matter of fact, if I could put about half of the current list into the CSM, I would at this point. Of course, I would absolutely love to see you on there for Faction Warfare, and even make it a bigger dream team and put Young Puke on there as well.
Well, thank you.
I think you two could work out every ill, work on the AWOC scene and all of that stuff, and both of you have a passion of getting the new players in. So I really respect that. I would love to see Frippy get in there.
Me too,
Because,
yeah.
Just the enthusiasm. I know, when I ran so early in the game, it was, for marketing reasons, but he honestly wants to get on there to, help the newbro experience and the pain points that he felt since it's so new. Who else?
This is very important. So if you forget somebody, you're gonna get hate
I
mail
know.
forever.
I know.
We need
I know.
specific. I want a list of names. Everybody who you care about. I need every 88 on your team. We'll spend the next few hours here going over.
I mean, I'm looking at everyone I've talked to so far. No, again, if I don't say a name, it's not because I hate you or I don't think you'd be a good job. There's only 12 spots, but I also think Mick Fightmaster.
Oh yeah, I'm setting up an interview with him here, hopefully today. I think we've got it worked out. So yeah, he's super cool. I was on Declaration of War with him. We did a podcast just a couple days ago. It was awesome.
Yeah, I like the guy. He has great presence. But the wormholers really need somebody. Right now, I mean, everyone on the CSM has operated in wormholes. I have a wormhole, but you don't want me representing you. All I can do is fly from, structure to structure in my lecture yacht. So, yeah, we do roleplay too.
Awesome. Well, we just got a huge raid here. 26 viewers coming in from Hoppy. Thank you so much. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think Hoppy's going to be in Vegas. So I'm going to Vegas. One of the things that I want to kind of carve out a little bit of time of is what kind of interactions have you been doing with the community outside of Eve? Is there I know that you did a lot at FanFest. I know you have a lot of plans maybe for the upcoming FanFest. What kind of stuff are you involved in, and is there anything that you're running right now or planning on running that are outside of Eve events?
Yeah, so last year I was a player presentator at FanFest. I think I was on 2 or 3 panels, and I had a bunch of interviews with magazines. I was a speaker at Eve Amsterdam this year, which was really, really cool. And then for next year, I think for FanFest, it's going to be myself, Kathy, and Sinalarma. We decided that our fates are just kind of rolled together, so we're just going to put in a group presentation, because they're going to group us up anyways. And I can't say a lot about it, because it's not 100% approved yet, but you know me, and you know my love for the new players, but we have something really cool planned to help new players navigate FanFest instead of kind of just standing in the corner and not knowing who to talk to. So We are really looking forward to that. I'm lining up a talk show that hopefully by the end of the year we'll get going.
I want to be
Uh,
helpful in that. I got a lot on my plate, but if I've got time to help out in anything, at the very least, I would love to come on
awesome.
and be a guest.
And then after I'm done interviewing all these, I'm going to continue going with the questions that I have. Of course, not necessarily the CSM stuff, but and talk to regular players. Everyone wants to talk about to the CEOs and the important people and the famous, but nobody talks and interviews normal players. What's their story? Why did they start playing Eve?
That was one of the
So
big things with my talk show. The Federation Frontline Report does interviews, and I do want to remind anybody that's watching or anybody that hears about this. We're open to everybody. Come on in. We'll schedule it out. Might take a little while depending on how busy things are. But we will schedule out a time for you to come at some point. We do a show every Sunday. And a lot of the times I like it to be interview. I do need to make sure I probably get like a monthly report out on the faction warfare zone soon, because it's like 30 interviews that's going to be without like any faction warfare like solidly. We're the faction warfare podcast, so but yeah, that is super cool, because yeah, we need more of that. Like, I want to
yeah,
hear the stories of new players. I want to hear the stories of anybody. I want to hear the stories of Eve. And it doesn't. Yeah, I don't need you to be a bigwig. I don't need you to be important or run a CEO. Or grunts are the greatest to get on because they have some of the best stories as well. So.
absolutely.
Speaking of which, where can we get a hold of you? How do we contact you? And are there any projects that you're currently working on? Do you have a website? And we definitely make sure to shoot over anything. I know that I've got your website, just in case. Shoot over any links or anything you want to put in the description. We'll get that
Yep.
down there for you. But how do we get a hold of you?
I am everywhere. I have my, Eve Rookies Discord. I'm also on Discord in tons of different communities, always under Kshal Aideron. I have YouTube channel. I stream on Twitch, although fairly infrequently. Hopefully, I can get that sorted. I am on the Eve Online forum, although I don't post as often, and I think I lost a vote or two because of that. Um, let's see what else. In game, I always answer every in game mail. If you send a convo to me and I don't answer right away, please remember, if I'm actually online in the game, I'm probably FCing. So I will answer it, but it might not just be immediately.
Absolutely. And so, I do want to make sure that we have time for talking any questions that people have. We haven't had a lot of questions thrown at us, but we do have a couple here, at least one that I'm seeing right now, possibly more. And if there is anybody else that has any questions, feel free to ask them now. And we'll make sure that we get that in right now. But the one that we do have, and I'm interested to see what your response is here, is that what do you think about rolling back the Kiki nerf? Do you think they nerfed Druglavian ships too much?
I think that it is a good balance. We talked about with your interview how, sometimes things are going to get nerfed or axed or changed. This is one of those things where the Triglavian weapons were just a little bit too powerful, even with the spooling up. So they needed to be rolled back a little bit. I realize 100% that it ruined some people's gameplay. You have to go and look and see what else you can possibly do. There are different ships, there's different weapons. Try other things out.
Yeah, when you're being OP about it, and you're like, my gameplay was ruined because I'm so OP from this mechanical thing that I figured out. Yeah, you need to be careful about what you're talking about there. But I truthfully don't even know much about that change. I wish I could get. I loved the Kiki back in the day, but because of faction warfare, I find myself more and more falling out of tune with the current meta
yep.
of these Triglavian ships and stuff like that. I can say that it felt OP when I was flying a Kiki back in the day.
Yeah.
If the nerf was too much, maybe we reevaluate. But I think it
And
was we were too good back when I was flying them.
it was almost too good, and you have to remember when some of these balances come out, it's maybe we need to draw back this a little bit and put another ship into the limelight, another weapon system. So Eve is ever changing. Eve is never going to be stagnant. They're going to come and go. I mean, the thing that they changed when I was 2-3 months in the game was the interceptors. They took the nullification off and put the horrible little module on.
Oh
I stopped
no.
scouting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't ever get attached to anything
Be
because
okay
it
with
can be altered.
change.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's for the better and sometimes it's for the worst, and then but for overall, I mean, I've watched this game for 20 years and I can tell you that way better than was 20 years ago, feels better than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. They started introducing scarcity and their paradigm changed to this stupid scarcity thing. Update the some of the updates, a lot of them have been really great, but the ideological, philosophical paradigm of scarcity is the dumbest, stupidest thing you could do in this game.
Yeah.
Roy Kules did need to have a response to, but it was not scarcity was not the answer to this equation.
I can tell you that one of my favorite changes that came out during my term was when Vargers, they got their speed turned down a little bit. I'm not a fan of upping Bastion to 1 minute because of the way that we do incursions. That really has made the Vanguards a little bit of a nightmare. We got over it. We got around it, but
sometimes you have to adapt.
We have some speed demons. They were not impressed with the 5 kilometer an hour less that the Vargers do.
Yeah.
Going a little bit slower. They want to get to the gate first. But
every little bit matters.
And that's one of the things about being the CSM is I was able to sit there and say, okay, the 1 minute Bastion, this is how PvE does it. I realize you're making this change because of PvP, but, does this balance with PvE? So, those are the things that CSM always have to kind of think about is what you do for PvP, the opposite, you have to see how it balances out.
Yeah, no, and this isn't really quite a question directed to you, but I want to see what your input on this is. There was a feeling Randolph is kind of saying here that there's been a lot of unfortunately, a lot of decisions, especially PvP balance, economy changes, have been pretty silly or stupid over the past few years. Seems almost deliberate. Do you think CCP's shooting themselves in the foot, or do you think that they intentionally or not? I guess it's not even. Do you think they pulled out the gun and shot themselves in the foot without an accident, or do you think that it was they thought they could do a quick draw and they shot themselves in the foot?
I think that they have a vision of where they want to go. Don't. This is a development company. They have a plan for Eve for the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 5 years, 10 years out. So they, want to work towards getting here. And I think that's what they were doing with scarcity. And I mean, even as far as blackout, they're trying to alter the game and get interaction, get engagement. Deal with inflation. That's where scarcity is coming in, is trying to make sure that the game economy stays balanced and doesn't get way out of hand like it, down in some of the South African countries where, you're going to walk in with your big stack of thing for Coke. So I think the way that they're doing some things is shooting themselves in the foot, but until they try, you never know how players are going to react.
I mean, I do have to say that sometimes you need to be brave in some of the things that you're doing. I strongly disagree with the philosophical foundation that they had that scarcity breeds conflict. Maybe in the real world, absolutely, scarcity brings conflict. But in a virtual world, it breeds the desire to not play. You don't have to. You have to play life. So you have to fight over. If you don't have to fight over the resources, then it just comes back to who has owned all that wealth already, you know, and it's already rich.
You know, for scarcity, they should have just came out and said what they were trying to accomplish, not putting some sort of flavor on it that, you know, it's breeding
Right.
conflict and adversity.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
just say,
Is it
look,
save the
guys.
economy? Because that's a different. We can now all of a sudden we can have a conversation. Because yeah, if we need to
Exactly.
save the economy, then let's save the economy. But if you're gonna put it in my face and say this is what will breed conflict, I will tell you that that will not breed conflict. I will tell you what will breed conflict. And maybe I'm wrong too, and we need to have discussions and decide upon what does breed conflict. But you know, once again, it's all about communication. So thank you so much for coming on. I want to make sure before we leave, is there anything that we didn't touch on, anything you're really passionate about, that you want to talk about before we finish up here?
Just a second. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just telling you the next interview I have to go into that I'll be there in a moment.
Back to
One,
back to back.
one more person tonight. I think the only thing that we didn't really touch on is community. Community has become a very big thing since my last CSM campaign, and it's not just you know, looking out for my community. It's looking out for all communities. I love seeing communities grow. I love seeing the leaders, you know, step up and do things. But in order to let some of these communities grow, we need in-game representation, because there is over 52 communities that have no not a corp, not an alliance. So we need some sort of representation, some way, somehow. And CCP doesn't really want to do some sort of like reputation program, or you know, they don't want to endorse one group over another group in fear of, you know, favoritism and stuff like that. But we really need something, and I'm close. I have to say I'm close.
Awesome.
So I really want to see that through.
Absolutely. I want to see that. Absolutely. There was one quick Spectre Void comes in here, and I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm not going to say anything. What are your thoughts on a PvP switch? And I believe they're kind of talking about like a flag that says I don't do PvP. Is that and if I'm wrong, Spectre Void? But what I'm getting from that is, do you think that there should be people who should be able to opt out of PvP in this game?
I know that this probably isn't going to be the answer that he's looking for, but no, I don't support that. Eve, when you load up Eve, it's a PvP game. The first rule is you don't undock, you know, with anything that you care about or that you can't afford to replace. And I don't think that there should be any real safe space. I think our career mission systems are the right level of safe, where you can't grief, you know, newbies out there. You can't gank them and stuff like that. Once they kind of go out beyond, yeah, they should be eligible for PvP. I have talked to CCP a little bit about ideas like this, because sometimes, you know, you talk about just ideas, not good or bad, and it always comes back down to Eve is a PvP game. Everything's PvP. Market's PvP. We have PvP in high-sec incursions.
Absolutely. No, and
So
I'm on your side with that. There's a couple things that I do want to really quickly, because this has triggered something in me. And Tots kind of says you shouldn't be able to be attacked for a month. I disagree with that also very strongly, in the sense that we also see numbers go up that people that do interact with PvP, even unconsensual PvP, it actually does help their desire to stay inside of this game. It's kind of weird like that. And maybe those stats are wrong, but from the feeling that I kind of get is that no, you should never because that 1 month safety window is just, you're gonna be pissed off you don't have it anymore, you know, and then you're gonna make a new character that's got the 1 month safety window, and it will be abused and manipulated. But one thing I think is there are places that you should be safe, like when you're docked. And that's kind of, you know, we kind of have that. There's some player-owned stations, a little bit questionable. There's some questionable things they've done with player-owned stations and converting NPCs stations into player-owned station that I think were questionable. We're very weird with the whole idea of how safe your assets are inside of a structure that's not a POS. But I do think it would be really cool to have like a whole section of the game that was inside of the station. I've talked about this before, where I think that, you know, walking in stations is really freaking cool. Let's not design it around melting your PC to the ground with the graphics. You don't need to make it look epically cool. We just need to go have a bar, you know, drink at the bar with our buddy in Jita. And yes, there might have to be 50 Jita bars, you know, or 1,000 Jita bars because it can only fit 10 or 15 people in or whatever, you know, but allow for, but it's Jita. Jita should have 50 freaking bars, you know, and all these different loading area zones and stuff like that. That doesn't have anything to do with PvP. Maybe have some missions and stuff like that you complete. Nothing to make you like a shit ton of money, but like, you know,
I don't
like
know.
a little bit of
Bar
something.
fights.
Bar fights, yeah, bar fights. There should be betting on darts. There should be, you know, there should be tons of, well, so there should be, but I think that that's almost where you get to the consensual level of like, you have to accept the bar fight to get the bar fight. Let some PvP in, but consensual PvP, you have to be careful about allowing for people to run around and shoot other people where they're outside of their pod, you know, like it just causing chaos. But I think that, yeah, there is room for non-PvE elements, but as soon as you non-dangerous, you know, PvP, you're not involved in any PvP in the sense of losing your ship. But if you really look at it, almost every interaction, no matter what, is PvP. It's just, that's what this world is. It's just like the real world. Every action you do influences and messes with something. You put up something on the market for really cheap, that might actually greatly influence the market, and watch it just tank on that item because everybody was keeping that item up only because they had control over the supply. And now you have supplied a much better, reasonable comparison to the item that's being put up, and you found out how to get it. There's lots of different things that cause PvP, so but yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You know, and I really love what you're doing. I really love what you're putting out there. You're also doing a lot of interviews for CSM as well. So definitely go check out all those interviews. I believe they're on your YouTube. I've been seeing them pop up, but they've been really cool, really well done. And you're doing a lot more, and you know, check out they've got a really epic website. I kind of wish our website was it almost looks more news kind of, like, I mean, like, you guys have like it's a newsworthy website, where ours is like, here's Twitch, here's YouTube, here's some podcast stuff, but yours has got like the scrolling information, and it's like I'm going to CNN, you know, like so thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for those who are watching, and have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.